Hey, She Army. Welcome to episode 43 of the Simply She podcast. I'm your host, Crystal Vernay. This episode is about women in business and crypto conversations. And so tonight we're going to be really discussing the journey of being a woman in business and then cryptocurrency, which I'm truly excited about.
Yep.
We are going live using StreamYard. So number one, there's no pause, there's no rewind, and we are unfiltered tonight. But in order to be able to leave comments under your name on Facebook, you must grant StreamYard access. You can revoke that at any time, but in order for us to be able to see who you are, you have to grant StreamYard access so that we can see your name under the comments. But either way, please feel free to go ahead and drop your questions in the comments or leave us comments as we're going through the show. So anywho, I often talk a lot about what it's like to be a woman in business and some of the barriers that we face and have to overcome. We have challenges that are really unique from men, but we are definitely overcoming those obstacles each and every day. And for those of you who have recently started your business, whether it's full-time, it's a side hustle, or you're looking to start a business, you have to be ready to roll up your sleeves and ready to put in the work. And my guest this evening, Almira, has definitely put in the work. And she's a serial womanpreneur just like me. She's had a lot of success in her respective industries. And so I'm really super excited to introduce her to you guys and also to learn from her. Let me tell you a little bit about who she is. She's a seasoned senior communications professional, and Almira Bardai has almost 20 years of experience creating powerful narratives for domestic and global brands. A serial entrepreneur, her PR and marketing business have focused on building brands. Almira is a recipient of Enterprising Women Magazine's 2016 Enterprising Women of the Year Award, Profit in Canadian Business W100, Canada's Top Female Entrepreneurs 2016, Business in Vancouver 40 Under 40 2016 winner, and finalist of the 2014 Vancouver YWCA Women of Distinction Awards. Please welcome Almira to the show.
Thank you for having me, Crystal. I'm so excited, and I'm so excited to talk all things business and crypto and money.
Yes, awesome. Thanks so much for coming on. So just tell us a little about how you got started in business.
Yeah, and just to shout out to all the She Army, you ladies are all fabulous and amazing, and men if you're listening too. I kind of went down the traditional path, graduated university, and one of the things that was such a catalyst in my career actually is that there was a co-op program. So you basically do practicums as part of your degree, and it was game changing because I just always had the tenacity to always be asking for contracts from those people, from those businesses and things like that. So I actually have been working in the industry since my third year at university, which was a heck of a long time ago. And then just continued in the industry. But then I moved to the UK and I moved to Australia. And when I came back to Canada can be a little bit funny about having had a global experience, and nobody would hire me. So they said, "You've been gone for too long." And I was like, last time I checked, I got a job in the UK and I became head of global PR. And then I got a job in Australia. And I've also worked in Cape Town and done all this stuff. And it's quite a story that people do have when they come back here, that they don't always, sometimes you just can't get a job. So I just ended up consulting. It fell into my lap, but then really made a concerted and intentional decision that I love this and I really want to do it. And also I love to travel. So it was phenomenal to be a consultant and traveling. At one point I lived in Australia. My clients in Vancouver had no idea I was in Australia. I just came back very tanned. And that led to another business. I merged my company with my business partners. Similar story. She is blonde hair and blue-eyed, and was a producer in Bollywood. So you can imagine what that was like. Came back here, was told she didn't have a lot of experience consulting. And then so we were champagne drinking buddies and just decided one day to merge the business. And so we grew the business to one of North America's top boutique PR firms. PR and social media is what it turned into. Had it for 10 years, then I sold it to her. And then now back into the consulting game. I also have another business idea, but it's not something that you would do during COVID. But I love consulting and I love what I'm doing. So I'm just really excited to be in this position, running another business again, having the freedom, the flexibility, and also now using my many years of experience to be playing at a different level and playing field, really now playing with some high profile CEOs in terms of running their marketing and the marketing of their business, if you will. And it is really exciting to be able to build those brands. So that's where I'm at.
Awesome. I can tell, well, a lot of things, like as you were talking, kind of came to mind. The you don't have enough experience, or you don't have the experience needed. And it's kind of like, well, what, you know, thinking like, well, what is it really? Like,
Yeah.
why don't I have the experience needed? And you have so much experience,
Yeah.
right? That's something that I've experienced quite a bit,
Yeah.
working in the government sector, actually. It
Mm.
was, you know, you don't have enough experience, and then it was, you have too much experience. Like I was running into both of those things.
Yeah.
So that was part of the reason why too. I was like, you know, I gotta get out here on my own, because this is
Yeah.
just, it's crazy.
Why am I playing somebody else's small game? I think was also part of it. And, you know, my boss in London, when I moved there, he was like, I literally cold called. I'd done Molson's PR when I lived in Canada. And then I was on the tube and saw an ad for a beer company. And I literally cold called the marketing director. He was like, I'm sorry, who are you? But he said, I'm looking for a secretary. So I said, fine, I'll cut you a deal. I'll be your secretary if you let me do PR. And he was like, on a secretary salary? I said, yes. So I did that for a year, and then I got promoted to head of global PR. But yeah, you know, like you just have to keep pushing and, you know, getting those experiences and saying, I've got the experience, just give me the chance. And I'm usually kind of bossy, so people do let me. But at the same time, is that I kind of got to the point that I'm just like, why am I trying to play small, trying to do this, and having the confidence? And I think that's a lot of things that when people look at me, they're like, you're so confident that you started a business. It was very brave. And, you know, I tell the story about how I couldn't get a job when I was back in Canada because I'd been gone for so long. So they didn't see me as relevant to the market. Again, completely crazy. But I had to start a business. Literally nobody would hire me. I couldn't even get an entry-level job. And, you know, I was competing. I hate the word competing, but I was in those interviews with, so I was 28, I think. And there was the 19 and 20-year-olds. And so, you know, it's just so weird to be in that situation. But it was just like, I need to play a different game here, and I need to create some different opportunities. And so again, it wasn't so much as bravery. You need a paycheck, right? But then as it does, you know, you have a path and a plan. I deeply believe in what the universe's plan is. And clearly it wasn't to have a job. It was to get on the path of entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. I always say, when one door closes, you find another. And then when there's no door, just make your own.
Oh, I love that.
Make your own. Right. So tell us, you talked a little bit about, you touched on just a little bit, but tell us about your PR and marketing business and who you normally work with.
Yeah. So I first started all those years ago as a traditional PR person. And so what public relations people do is that they're the bridge to the media. So company hires you, media story. And so you work with the company to develop the stories that you then pitch to the media, and they pick it up. But now the media game has changed so much. You know, it's a combination of earned media, so PR pitching and getting the stories, paid editorial, which is actually very, very relevant and well written. And it's an interesting story. You know, back when I started, it was like, oh God, you pay for coverage, get an ad, right? And then social media and influencers and content marketing. So all holistically, and what I do is integrated campaigns. So first of all, work with a client, and we're going to be talking about crypto today. So one of my clients is Netcoins, and it's a cryptocurrency exchange here in Vancouver, Canada. And it is about how do you build that brand? You know, again, the CEO, their job is to run the business, and they're experts at so many things, and when they know what they need from a brand, but they're not necessarily the ones to bring in the many years of strategy and experience and know how to do it, and also the big vision. The other part of it is that sometimes there's just so much to do. They're just like, I don't have time for this, right? So I'm like, okay, here's what you need. You also need to figure out what your messaging is. Like, I've had some clients that I'm like, I'm sorry, that's your website? What are you showing me, right? I'm like, please turn that off. And it's a horrible website. Their messages are terrible. And you're just like, I'm sorry, please, just don't touch that. Just let me deal with this, right? And, you know, I think just also women in business, we kind of have that, oh God, please don't touch that. Just please don't make it any worse, right? But it really is about working with them to build their brand, to be able to create engagement and brand love and followers. But also what I really do is that because I'm approaching it for such a high level, I put together their path, the direction where they want to be. And then I just have the big vision, and then we break it down. We'll be like, okay, here's all of the activities that we could do in order to get to this big vision and where we want the business to be and your brand to be. Break it down, look at all of the activities, and then set a priority list of everything that we're going to do over the next 6 months. Then we'll do a review after 6 months, see where we are, what we've achieved, and then be able to move to the next phase of the campaign or the brand building, from where we go from there. And so, yeah, it is what are the levers that we're pulling in order to get out there. So specifically for this client, for the president, he launched the world's first Bitcoin ATM. So of course we need to be telling the world about that. So we've launched a thought leadership campaign for him. There's PR for the company, content marketing, social media. I work with their marketing team. So I'm really that high-level project manager also who comes in and oversees all the projects. Or sometimes I work with a business and just, again, because usually it starts with, oh my God, I've seen your website. Do you even know who you are and what you do? And say, let's have a session. Let's talk about this. And these are all the things that you could be doing, and then leave it up to them to be able to do the implementation. But typically I stay involved with a minimum 6 months and up to a couple of years. So, and it's really neat to see the brand evolve. And even I learn, I joke about how I'm too old to understand digital. I'm 43. I got my first email account at 18, and people are like, what did you do until then? But the internet did not exist back then. So my level of digital understanding, I learn every day from my clients' marketing teams. So it's just about looking at how we pull everything together and we work together to pull those elements. And again, going back to building their brand.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of key things you said there. What rose to the top for me was the learning piece of everything. And how you're learning every day. And I think people think that because you are the boss, because you're the CEO, all you need to know. That is extremely false.
Yeah.
And also, there's going to be people that you need to surround yourself to be able to take your brand to the next level. Yeah. Like one person doesn't, do it alone. Because again, your expertise is PR and marketing. So obviously, whoever the CEO, he or she may be, right? They may have some knowledge, but they may not be an expert. Yeah. And so sometimes what you need that expert to be able to take your brand, your business to the next level. Totally. And so what I really want to, impart to listeners today is the fact of, you're not going to be able to build alone. And, again, Rome was not built in a day, and it wasn't built by one person. Mm-hmm. So really being strategic about who you surround yourself with, and having people around you that can help you bring your vision to life is really, really important, especially as you're trying to scale.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, 100%. And, my biggest thing was being around my peers. So I've talked to you about it previously. Crystal was Entrepreneurs Organization. And so you need to have a minimum $1 million US business to join, but they've got the accelerator program, which is a minimum $250,000 business. And then the idea is that they grow you up to $1 million in 2 years. And it was life-changing and game-changing for me. I was 28, when I started running my own first business, and, you're working and you're figuring it out. And I had some great mentors. My parents, actually, my mom's an entrepreneur and my dad's so savvy. So they were really amazing, because you don't expect to be doing this at 28, or at least I didn't. And some friends would be like, why are you working at night or doing these things? Because my thing is that my writer, she would write best at night. So then I would be on my phone and checking it. And so, how they say about entrepreneurship, that you're willing to spend a few years working like no one else so that you can have the life that nobody else has. Yep. And so for me, that's partially what it was. One, it was my own business. I didn't have the paycheck, so I needed to keep everything flowing and all the projects going. But I was so committed to this. But my friends, especially at that age, did not get it. And so I went to my first EO accelerator meeting, and it was so emotional for me because I was now surrounded by people who got it, who were doing what I was doing, and I could learn from their lessons and their mistakes. And it was just, I literally remember just my shoulders, just dropping and being like, I can breathe. I don't feel completely overwhelmed. And also, you have a mentor in your group when you do the accelerator program. It's usually 3 to 4 people who are in it. Usually, this is similar business. There were conflicts at the time, and they were allowed, but it was so that we can learn from each other as we built the businesses. But then we actually had a seasoned EO member being our mentor, and we had accountabilities and kept us up there. But it was game changing because I was now learning from somebody who was in it and doing it. And before then, I was just trying to figure out how to grow. I mean, how do you even know what growth means half the time, right? And it was like, do I need another spreadsheet? Do I need to do this? Like, again, you just don't know. And it was so amazing. And just, again, so much relief to it. And that's why I also really believe in coaching. I have a coach, I have a trainer. So I have a fitness coach, I have all of those things. And they're so important, especially we as women. We don't have all the time in the world, especially when we decide to become wives and mothers and caregivers. I mean, this is what we're seeing in the pandemic right now. And so for me, my vision is, one, I always want to grow. I always want to learn, but it's also like a hack. How can I learn faster in order to have more free time to spend time with my child and to have a really fit body, right? It's all down to that bikini bodies, right? What is it? That your bikini body is built in winter. So it is winter right now.
Right. Absolutely. That definitely all resonates with me. And, like I always say, Michael Jordan had a coach, Serena Williams has a coach, definitely be thinking about that when it comes to your business. Why would you not have someone who's coaching you around your business or finances or your fitness, right? These are all things that we want to, or we strive to get better at and manifest the best possible outcome in our lives.
Yeah.
So
you bring up an important one about a finances coach. I mean, that's a whole other topic in itself, is just, about money and money habits and things like that. But one of the programs that I've recently done is Smart Cookies. And it just gives you a really great budgeting tool. I mean, it's a spreadsheet you do in an hour, but it was just the financial coaching behind it, because also life had been so busy. Like, I'd had a business, I sold a business, I had a kid, all of these things. And it really just buckled me down. And I heard something the other day that says your budget is actually not a budget. It's just revealing your financial habits. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, right? But also, money is still so taboo. People are freaked out. I mean, the idea of getting a financial coach, or like, oh, or it's too expensive or whatever. Anything that helps you be your best self,
right,
is always, or within reason, is worth spending the money or finding how to get the money to be able to do that, right? You don't want to like get tons and tons and tons of debt doing that. But at the same time is that it's okay. Like, let go. We can talk about those things and get some coaching around it.
Absolutely. Especially women need to have conversations around money. We talked about this the other day on another episode. So I was like, we need to be talking about it and talking about it often. Yeah. I think what it was that what we were discussing was that we've been kept away from the table for so long. So now we have to catch up.
Yes.
And really be in tune, which is why I'm glad we're talking about crypto in just a little bit, because I really want that to be something that the She Army is exposed to and that we can all think about and have continuously have conversations around. So one of the things I wanted to ask you is, you consider yourself a serial womanpreneur, as do I. So what are you most passionate about? What do you consider is like your overall mission?
To help women, help female entrepreneurs, guaranteed. And so I'm so, so blessed to be a woman in the first world, a woman of color in the first world. And I remember in 2014, when I was a finalist with the YWC Women of Distinction Awards, I had a South Asian publication call me for interview. And they said, so what do you feel is your responsibility towards South Asian women? And so I'm a Somali Muslim, which is from Northern India. Everybody grew up in Africa and then came here. And there's others, of course, India is such a big country. So other Indians and South Asians. And so it's just a very different community. So I never had thought until that point about my responsibility as a woman of color and to women of other brown colors. Sorry, that's kind of convoluted, but that's where the thinking came from, is that I never really thought about my job also as a woman of color. Yes, I'm a woman, but hey, hang on a second. Yeah, when you do look at the rest of the world, there is a lot of privilege. I mean, this year has been about white privilege, right? So what is it that a woman of my skin color owes to the women in Vancouver, in my country, in Canada? And it really started to get my wheels turning about, I'm not just privileged to live in Canada and in the family and in the home, but I'm privileged by the opportunities, or even by the brown-skinned family that I grew up in. And that's when I really started to realize I have a role to play. I have a voice, I have a role to play. And that really connected me, which I knew it was anyway, but it really connected with my passion to help entrepreneurs in the developing world. And here as well, I do a ton of mentoring, but also we still are given a lot of opportunities in the first world. So what about the women in the third world? I have a connection to Africa. My parents are from there, although I'm just seeing so many crazy, horrible stories about women in Latin America and South America. And I'm like, okay, we need to start looking into all these places as well. And then since becoming a mother, like, that's just a whole other like mind screw when you realize about the privilege that my child gets to have. I was there's a woman here in Vancouver, and she was just asked, just through the connections that we have of our mom groups, that she'd adopted 2 children from Morocco, and so the children needed shoes. They get a lot of clothes and things like that, but no shoes and jackets. So I was just talking to her, and she was saying that there's actually no heating and the orphanage is in Casablanca, and there's no heating because it's actually a luxury in Morocco. And just that even makes me tear up, to know that I just literally turn on the switch and turn the heating on for my child, or my child has a hot bath, right? So that's become another part of my mission and my purpose is that, one, how are we raising up female entrepreneurs and giving them opportunities? But what is it about children? And there's also been so much talk about women, with the 3 Cups of Chai in Greg Mortenson's book over the past few years, but the boys are now being left behind. So making sure that there's equality and opportunities, because when you see that there's extremism in those other countries, it's usually because the boys still aren't getting an education, right? So how holistically do we look at our future, which is all people, but certainly women, mothers, female entrepreneurs and their children? How are we making it better for them? Or in all ways, and I don't mean coming from a first world perspective that this is how we think philanthropy and support is, but how are we being able to support and able to just make the world a better place? Because man, it's don't get me wrong, I don't want to be negative, but it's definitely not roses everywhere, right?
Right, absolutely. What do you so definitely let us know about that, the charities that you support later. We'd love to hear about them. But what do you feel like is lacking the most when it comes to women in business? Where can we do better? Where can we be better?
Our self-confidence in our voice. The problem, though, is when we use our voices, we're the bitches, we're the difficult ones. I haven't really solved that one, right? I think, how do we own our place? And the other thing that I was thinking about it is that when they pay us the same as they pay men, how does that happen? But women also need to go into those fields, right? I didn't go into technology where it pays so much more money than PR does. Entrepreneurship pays great. But the other side of it is I look at all of my female entrepreneur friends, and they have one business. It's usually a bricks and mortar business, whereas the guys will have their business and they own 50% shares in a restaurant, and they have this business and they have this revenue stream. Like, men just have multiple revenue streams. We haven't been exposed to those ideas. So one, it comes from work, but 2, it's also about how do we, because I feel, and I could totally be wrong, women have to be shown things sometimes. We're not necessarily looking out. And I think particularly as we get older, we just don't get the time, right? So how is it that we are stepping into business differently? Role models. I mean, Kamala Harris, like that, if that is not such a great role model, that's awesome. But how are we able to use our voices, use our confidence at the boardroom to be able to even just get in there? How are we networking and figuring out how to get in there? How are we strategizing? Because the boys are strategizing. How are we doing that? Are we sure we're doing that? And then to be able to look at it from the other side of it and saying, how do I learn about money? Or how do I go into that high paying job that I never really thought about? Or where is it? Or we as mothers, where are we looking at to see where is those next industries where our children should be, right? We need to be doing a better job ourselves to be able to be part of all of those situations and conversations. Because again, the guys are doing it, we're not. And I think that's it, is that Sheryl Sandberg had lean in. It's how do we make sure we get in? How do we keep thinking differently and be as assertive as the men are to get there? Again, I haven't solved it, but it's the stuff that goes through my head.
Yeah, no, I agree. I definitely, if you're not at the table, you can't have the conversation, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's definitely something that we have to strategize around just as women. I know that like conversations, my mom, she was into investing, but like she still did not necessarily have that conversation with me. It was kind of like, you should do it, but it wasn't broken down. So it's like, how do we make sure that breakdown happens, and that from an early age, you are focused on, okay, like this is the way that I should go about managing my finances, getting into investing. I should want to be in real estate. I should buy property. I shouldn't be afraid to collaborate. Those are conversations that we have to have. I think the more of us that stand up and be the example, like you said, be the example for other people and share our stories, share our message. I'd say I will not be muted. Like, I'm going to talk about what I know, and I'm going to share my knowledge in hopes that it changes lives. It changes women's lives for the better, and that they can see better for themselves.
Yep.
So we have to just continue to do it. And I definitely think there's definitely collaboration and partnership that has to happen just all over for that to really take root. But it definitely starts at a young age. You know, and a lot of it, I think, is like societal and like how you grow up, because if your mom's telling you you're going to be a teacher or you're going to be a wife, you're going to be a mother, but but it's like, it's not, and it's like one thing.
Yeah.
Right. That's the one thing, right? You got your one thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, instead of saying you can be whatever you want to be and then giving you the one thing, it's like, you can be all these things. You don't have to just be one thing or just do one thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, encouraging other fields for us to go into. Like, I love like the Black Girls Code organization, because I was a coder in high school and in college. So I really appreciate that. And when I have time, I try to give back some of my time. And like all the STEM programs, like really getting us into those fields and being the example for folks who come after.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
For sure.
There you go. I love how you decode. Good. Yeah. There's not enough women who do that. And it's just like, you look at Silicon Valley and you're like, wow, there's a gender imbalance, you know? But yeah, I don't feel like I was exposed. It sounds awful to say that I feel like I wasn't exposed to technology in that sense, because it's not my parents' job to do it, or is it my school's job? Like, where is it that we are lacking? And yet at the end of the day, when I look at who I graduated with, one girlfriend and frankly, one person that I know went on to university to do computer science. Nobody else did. So again, it could have just been a generational thing that we didn't think about the fact that computers and technology was going to take over. But man, I wish I'd been exposed to it. There was no place to do that. And ultimately, I'm happy with my career. It led to entrepreneurship and everything. But hey, maybe I should have been getting a $200,000 a year job, right? And when women demand, or mothers demand, or fathers too, but when parents demand these opportunities for their children, and particularly people of different socioeconomic classes, right? When they demand the opportunities that I feel are for everybody, that's when we start to see everybody rise up. That's where we start to see, I mean, we saw all the stats, everything with happening with like Black Lives Matter. I mean, the Black community has just been stuck where, and amazing achievements, don't get me wrong. I love going on to LinkedIn and seeing all of these Black women rising in like every SVP role that I can see. There's a new SVP of marketing at Adidas, Black women, like so good. But those are still the exceptions. And how are we getting our girls and boys into these roles that then create the capacity and the capability to create change? So it's a big picture question and exposure.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I don't know that we have the answer. We're going to solve it tonight, but definitely something that we want to think about, and conversations that need to be had, so that we can start to move the needle, you know, in terms of seeing more of people of color, you know, rise up and be successful. So with that being said, what do you feel like are some of your biggest accomplishments to date?
Oh, my son, he's so cute and he talks so much, which is amazing. It's really cute to have full conversations with him. But my gosh, I mean, there's so many. For me, I'm a many colored life person. So for me, it's just about, am I the best version of myself today and now? You know, I do a lot of personal development work. I do a lot of coaching in business. I'm so excited about my business. I want to give back. Impact is my word. So if I'm able to tick off all of those things, and I mean, seriously, this is not mean to add somebody's to-do list. One of my game-changing things that I did is called Life Book, and it's led by a couple, John and Missy Butcher, and they believe in the 12 category life. And for me, I was always trying to do all these things anyways, eat healthy and meditate and do this and do that. And I was like, this is too much. And then they've got this program and it's just like, here's your 12 category life. And it is community, spirituality, money, career, all those things. And I want to be able to look at my vision board right in front of me and my 12 category life and say, am I the best version of myself? And today, can I be the next day, am I the next best version? And am I keeping to grow, but not to the extent that I'm then alienating people from my life? You know, I love my family. I love spending time with them. You know, my son is just this like beautiful, chubby little happy person, but he's only 3. I'm only going to get to squish him and tickle him for so long, right? I want to be able to make sure I'm doing that. My parents are getting older. You know, I've got a partner, my sister, like all of those things. I want to be able to make sure that I'm giving people quality time and stuff, because at the end of the day, it's all about connections, however you want them, romantic, romantic relationship, family, friends, whatever it might be. But it really all boils down to me for relationships, and then also being the best version of myself that I can be.
Awesome. What, keeping in that same vein, or just a little tangential, what do you feel like are the biggest lessons you've learned, or lesson you've learned in your journey so far?
Slow down. That's my big one. Somebody once said to me, what was it, that it is your greatest gift is also your greatest weakness. And it's so true. People love my energy. They love, and I say whirlwind, not like a tornado, but like I'm this whirlwind of energy and ideas and passion. Unfortunately, passion and energy, especially when you're in a CEO situation, can really alienate people, especially young employees who just see you as a force and an aggressive force. And I'm still learning how to deal with people and dynamics and things like that. And then you get the other side of it, which are clients who are just like, I don't actually understand what you're up to, but whatever it is, just do it because it's working. But I wasn't taking them along my journey. And then also about recognizing that relationships, and particularly I do find male-female relationships, women are usually faster than men. So which then leads me to zero patience. My dad's always just like, I don't actually know what's going on here, and I'm just like, you're just too slow, right? Which, fine, I really shouldn't talk to my father like that. But again, I need to slow down, and that's been such a lesson. And when I get too fast, I definitely get kicked by it. What else? Gratitude, because there's highs and lows throughout everything. I think having that, again, I meditate a lot, so I'm learned all about inner peace, but peace comes from within. Peace comes from within, calm comes from within. Happiness is a choice. You choose happiness. Gratitude, that's a big one. So long as you can live in that state of gratitude, I mean, that's half the battle, right? Because it was funny, I was reading some Robin Sharma, and it was saying that we actually have a negativity bias. And I never realized that. And I'm not a negative person, but I started to realize that I was no longer seeing the best case scenario. I was always freaking out about what could happen, what would be the worst. And I'm like, where did this come from? And I was learning about negativity bias. So I feel like it took the pressure off that it wasn't just me. But we as a society are actually wired for negativity, not positivity. And that was shocking. Yeah. Sorry, I talked a lot. Sorry.
No. I was like, it's good. I'm like, we are learning a lot, and it's definitely great to hear your perspective. And so now I'm really excited because now we're going to talk about crypto, because I know when we last spoke, you were kind of, telling me a little bit about it. And so I was like, oh, we got to talk about this on the show. So can you give us like a brief overview of cryptocurrency and why we should be interested in it?
So full disclosure, I've just started my journey. So if you want a better resource, go to my client's website. Again, full disclosure, it is my client. It's Netcoins, N-E-T for Thomas, COINS.ca. Now you do have to double check because the regulations for crypto trading are different in Canada and the US. So any US listeners, you do have to double check about the exchanges that you can use. But on Netcoins' website, at the top of the page in the nav bar, it's called Academy. And that is a crypto 101 resource so you can really understand the basics. Because, just searching for it and Googling it, it's not super easy. And my first part that I struggled with is that I never really understood what a blockchain was. That word alone, I was like, what? Honestly, I was like, who invented this? I just literally could not. Every time people said the word blockchain, my ears would just stop and I'd be like, just be a wall. But really, I mean, it's the decentralization of information and how it's stored. And again, these are very, very basic concepts and stuff. So I do suggest you Google and you wiki it. But for currency, it is decentralized. So cryptocurrencies are not held by central banks, because right now you've got the US Federal Treasury, the Bank of Canada. Cryptocurrencies, again, it's on the blockchain, so it's all decentralized. So there's no one owner. And what that means is that it is then not subject to things that could happen in decisions made by the government, particularly inflation. So right now with COVID, is the governments are all printing more money, right? So guess what's going to happen there? Inflation's going to skyrocket. And one of the examples that I use about crypto is Venezuela. So Venezuela is a super wealthy country, tons and tons of oil. But due to some government decisions and inexperience, they've been printing tons and tons and tons of money to the point that it's so devalued. And the average Venezuelan has lost 22 kilograms because they do not have enough money to buy food. And so the other humanitarian crisis that's happening on our western side of the world is actually the exodus from Venezuela to the other surrounding Latin American countries, especially into Colombia. And it's the inequality there that also happens. It just went, again, the currency is just so devalued in all of these, particularly Venezuela, but in these countries, that cryptocurrency, what happens is, and now speaking about Bitcoin is probably the most recognized of the currencies. There's thousands of different currencies. I believe there's up to 2,000 currencies there. Netcoins trades 7, right? So realistically, like find your 7. But there's Ethereum, Bitcoin, there's Bitcoin Cash out there, there's various ones. Start learning about Bitcoin. That's the easier one. And also Bitcoin is at a high. And so the way that these are traded is that it's traded, digitally through the blockchain. And there are also records that are created. So it's not like it's this intangible thing. What you do have to watch out for, though, is that there has been a lot of fraud in the industry, right? And so you think you're putting in all of this money and getting your investment, but it's a totally fraudulent company. And that's the hard part. You just have to research. But there was an example here in Vancouver of a company called Quadriga. Looked totally legit, but it wasn't. I think it was 230 million fraud. So that's why, horrible. But this is why there is working for the regulation in the industry here in Canada. I'm not familiar with what's happening in the US. You can do your research and find somebody in the financial industry who would be able to help you and things like that, and make sure you ask your questions, but just start the research is what you want to be doing. So going back to Bitcoin, there's only actually ever 21 million Bitcoins that are going to be available. So that's how they managed to maintain the price of it without having all of the inflation. So it's stable, and people think that this is the way of the future because, again, it's not subject to the central governments. You can't just print more of it. It's stabler. So when you look at the rise and fall of various currencies, again, Bitcoin is at 21 million actual Bitcoins. The other thing with crypto is that you can actually buy a fraction of it. And so I do not have $25,000 to buy Bitcoin right now, but I can buy a fraction of it. So every month I'm buying some. I got really confused. And again, this is why I say I'm just a novice learning about this. I got really confused when I was trying to figure out, because again, I was buying a fraction of it, is that when do I actually buy? Like that it's so negligible in terms of what I'm buying. It's not 25,000. That's what it was. I can't believe Bitcoin hit 25 this morning. But it's so negligible in terms of buying my fraction is that like, where do I buy and sell and whatever? And it was like, stop this, just buy, right? Because it's going to start going up. It is predicted to be going up. And like any investment, there is, there's volatility in any investment. So you have to feel comfortable with it, right? That's the other part of it. You can trade in gold and silver and invest in those areas. Don't put it under your mattress and just don't keep it in a bank account, right? Because it's savings account definitely keeps some easy cash available, but the interest rates, particularly here in the Canadian banks, is 0% basically. So there's no point. Women need to create wealth. And you have to be looking at, getting up there and actually getting your money to work for you. I believe that every dollar has a purpose. Give it a purpose. Find it a purpose. Sometimes, sure, it should be in a savings account because you might need to pay whatever bill is coming up, and you should always have an emergency account. But we're not going to build wealth until we take a longer term view and things even like properties. But, I'm in Vancouver. It is the third or first and among the top 3 most expensive real estate in the market. So where you look, and Vancouver is just like, I don't know if you can actually get a return on it can't get a return and cash flow as easily as you could in other markets in Canada. But for me, Bitcoin, knowing that it's always going to be there, it's fairly stable and it's going to be growing because everything is moving digitally. That's why I'm interested in it. The other thing is that companies like PayPal are now offering crypto, Stripe also. But what these companies are doing is that they're actually seeing the strength in cryptocurrencies. So they're using their own cash to buy crypto as an asset. And a lot of company controllers and CFOs are starting to do the same thing. So, people will have, a vault or war chest, whatever they call them, and they're starting to hold them in crypto, in Bitcoin, because of the investment opportunities behind it. Again, as I keep saying, I've just started my journey, but what I'm seeing is the increase and the growth in this area. It is only going to grow. Even though one Bitcoin is now at 25,000, I mean, there's still opportunities to grow. It's expected to hit 100,000 from what I've heard. Obviously, a few years. Please do your research. But I want to be part of the wave that is going up with this. And also, when I look at it, and it's all men. I mean, there's definitely women in the market, but there's not that many. And so for me, going back to my passion about helping women and female entrepreneurs, I want to see them be part of the wealth. I think the number is that by 2026, women will control half of the world's wealth. Well, first of all, 2026 is only 6 years away, and I'm not seeing that. And fine, we might control half of the world's wealth, but when you think about it, I think men still have more wealth. I want to see women be a part of this. And I see again how women, the way busy, how we research, it's different. Men tend to research about money. We're not always, go out there, let's change our habits. Let's be looking at these opportunities. Hey, maybe crypto's not for you, find property, learn about it. There's also, I think it's called ADDY, ADDY, and that's fractional, it is. It's fractional property investment. And that is actually a Vancouver company as well. There's other real estate. It's things called Ratium. Again, these are Canadian companies, but you can buy a portion of real estate. So even if you look at your bank account and say, well, I don't have enough money or I don't qualify for a mortgage, there's other ways to do this. Please not do anything. Don't do nothing. That is the worst plan. And I think partially that's what women do is that we're unsure, so we don't do it. And that is killing us. Because you're seeing the guys' portfolios skyrocket, or you then get women, married couples, where the woman is just like left behind. We should all be growing our portfolios with our partners if and when we have them, but don't wait until you're married to do it. Don't wait until this day and this date. Start early with whatever investments you do. Start early, grow that portfolio, learn about the stock market, learn about indexes. Indexes actually perform better than most stocks over the long run, right? Or mutual funds. Right. How are you going to do it? How are you going to create wealth? Because ladies, we're the ones ending up in poverty. When husbands pass away, we're the ones in poverty, and we got to take care of ourselves and take care of our kids. And, the world is our oyster, but let's make it our oyster.
Absolutely. That's like solid advice. Cause I'm not, too familiar with crypto. I know about it. Just what it is. Yeah. That's really it, but that's super helpful for me. I'm definitely going to be looking into it. And Army, you guys heard about Bitcoin and doing your research and Netcoin. So look up those things and see how you can make these fractional investments. You just got to start somewhere. So I definitely agree with Almira, like just start. You have to start. So look into that, do your research, and see if it's for you. But I agree, real estate, that there's so many different ways that we can invest. So 100%. Like, I'm definitely going to be looking at that like tonight, actually.
Pool all your money together, ladies. Like, it's like, I don't know how many of your generation it is, but we all joked about how we wanted to live next door together in Melrose Place. Well, ladies, let's pool our money and let's buy Melrose Place, right? It's investment property, and also, don't be thinking that, you have to have some massive house or something. Again, I live in Vancouver and I question, our house is worth a couple million. I question who would then buy the house, right? What does that look like in a couple of years? So then it's like, okay, let's look at investment properties and all of those things. So you don't think you have to buy this massive thing. Start small, start with something that's going to grow and get cash flow, have your tenant. Just think bigger, but think smart, obviously, but think bigger and think differently to be able to figure out what your wealth plan is, because that's what a financial plan is. It's a wealth plan.
Right. Absolutely. Wealth building plan. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
So are there any new projects that you're working on that you want to tell us about?
What am I not working on? No, actually, you know what? I'm taking the next couple of weeks off. I haven't had a chance. It's been such a busy year, which, knock on wood, has been such a blessing, but I'd like to clean my office. I'm actually a very, very neat person. There's a bit of clutter. I wanted to catch up with like some stuff in coaching and reading some books. That was a big one, is that I've got a lot of books. I'm all about entrepreneur books. And actually, one of your questions was about recommending any books. Yeah. I love Onward, which is Howard Schultz's book about, I think he went back. Yes, when he went back into Starbucks. I'm just looking at it. It's on my shelf right now. He went back into Starbucks and then how they rebuilt the business. And then one of my other favorite books is To Pixar and Beyond. Is that what it's called? Yeah, To Pixar and Beyond. And that is the story of how Pixar was built and then what it was like. And then Steve Jobs came into it and that is just a tenacious story. And there's so many times that Pixar should have just not existed and they did it. It is an incredible story. So
awesome. Well, I will definitely, that'll be on my, those two will definitely be on my reading list. Hopefully you guys are listening to that. But right now, what I want to do is go ahead and ask the audience if they have any questions for Almira. Any questions? All right. I am not seeing any. So Almira, do you want to just go ahead and drop your social handles, your website, tell folks how they can get in contact with you?
Absolutely. Instagram is Almira B, at Almira B. And my website is www.almirabardai.com. So feel free to connect. My website is actually being redone as we speak, so please no judging. But it will be up there and it should be up there shortly. I'm on LinkedIn, Almira Bardai, so please don't hesitate to connect. We'd love to be able to make a LinkedIn connection with you all. And it was a pleasure. And of course, there's no questions because I answered everything and gave you everything.
Oh, wait,
honestly, anything, don't hesitate.
We do have one that literally just came in. She says, what do you think about, what did you say? It's Ethereum? Is that the name of it?
Yeah, you know what? I don't know enough about that one. So again, because I wanted a little bit more security as I entered this, Bitcoin is the most known one, but Ethereum, in my perspective, is the second most known. And I think it's a really great buy if you want to do it. And if memory serves me correctly, I think Ethereum is a little bit more reasonable. Ethereum is at, $795. So if you're going to do it, my recommendation, again, do your research. Ethereum would be a good one. And there's also a really great book called The Bitcoin Standard, written by a gentleman named Saifedean Ammous. Just search for The Bitcoin Standard. It's not the easiest read, but it really gives the history as well of Bitcoin. So if you really want to get really, really deep into the story and the history of Bitcoin, absolutely look at that one.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that. Okay, guys. For more information on Almira and how to contact her, you can also click on the link that will be in the show notes for this episode 43. That will be at isimplyShe.com/podcast. That is isimplyShe.com/podcast. And as always, if you'd like to join a collective of women dedicated to being empowered and becoming the best version of themselves, join the She Army Facebook community, and that link is also in the show notes. I hope that you guys have found what we shared today to be helpful. And remember, guys, you too can conquer if you slay hard every day. Thanks so much, Almira.
Thank you so much for having me. I totally enjoyed it.
You're welcome.